The most expensive thing to hit your life after the Iran war started won't show up on your bank statement right away. Not today. Maybe not even next month. But by fall, yeah, you'll feel it. In your groceries, your flights, your mortgage rate, your credit card bill, all of it. And that's the part people keep missing. This isn't just gas got expensive, annoying, moving on. No, babe. This is 5 economic waves rolling toward your wallet on different timelines. And each one arrives wearing a different disguise. By the time most people notice, they won't even connect it back to what happened in the Persian Gulf. That's what makes this dangerous. My name is Vanessa, and I spend way too much time doing depressing money math, so you don't have to. Today I'm going to walk you through all 5 waves, when they hit, and what you need to do before they smack you in the face. Let's rewind for a second, because the timeline matters. On February 27th, Oman's foreign minister announced progress in U.S.-Iran nuclear talks. The next day, February 28th, the U.S. and Israel launched coordinated airstrikes across Iran. Operation Epic Fury. The timing, honestly, is going to be argued about for years. But our issue isn't the politics. It's what happened after. Iran retaliated hard. Missiles and drones hit U.S. military bases across 6 Gulf nations. Oil infrastructure took damage. Then Iran moved to choke off the Strait of Hormuz, the tiny bottleneck that carries about 20% of the world's seaborne oil. And by mid-March, commercial shipping through there basically froze. Normal traffic is around 130 ships a day. At one point, almost none. The IEA called it the biggest energy supply shock ever recorded. Bigger than the 1973 oil embargo, bigger than the 1979 Iranian Revolution shock. They released 400 million barrels from emergency reserves, which is basically the economic version of grabbing a fire extinguisher and praying. Brent crude shot from $71 to nearly $120 in weeks. It's pulled back some on ceasefire hopes, but if this drags longer, $150 oil is absolutely on the table. And yes, the gas price you're staring at right now is just wave 1. To make this real, I want you to follow 2 households through all 5 waves. Maya's 31, a kindergarten teacher, making $58,000 a year. She has $3,400 in savings and invests $200 a month. Ryan and Jess work logistics and hospital shifts. Together they make $94,000. They've got $2,100 in savings and $3,800 on a credit card at 22% interest. Same city, same stores, same headlines. Totally different outcomes. Not because of income, not because of luck, because of what they do in March 2026. Let's start with wave 1, gas. The national average hit $3.96 a gallon this week, up more than $1 in under a month. California is at $5.81, and diesel, which matters way more than people realize, is now $5.37 nationally, up 47% from before the war. Why do I care more about diesel than the gas in your car? Because diesel is what moves the stuff you buy. Trucks, refrigeration, farm equipment, the whole physical supply chain runs on it. So when diesel jumps, the cost gets passed through, quietly and repeatedly, into almost everything. A $1 increase in gas prices pulls roughly $150 billion a year out of consumer spending. The average household is now looking at around $748 in extra fuel costs this year. For Maya, that's about $47 more per month just to get to work. She stopped doing the drive-through coffee stop on the way to school, which, honestly, good for her. That $6.80 latte habit was getting a little cute. For Ryan and Jess, it's the same $47. They haven't changed anything yet because it still feels manageable. And that's exactly the trap, because manageable is how people ignore the early warning signs. You check your account on a Thursday. It's lower than you expected. You do the mental math, and you can't quite explain where the money went. That weird little feeling that everything is costing more, but nothing looks dramatic. Yeah, that's wave 1 quietly doing its job. Wave 2 is groceries, and it's coming in 30 to 60 days. This one is already moving. You just can't see the full effect yet. Diesel doesn't just move people, it moves food. Refrigerated trucks can't sit around waiting for fuel prices to calm down, and produce doesn't magically stockpile itself for 6 months. When diesel goes up, carriers pass through a big chunk of that increase fast, often within a month or two. Before the conflict, grocery inflation was already running hot. Now, economists are projecting CPI near 4.4% in the coming months. Beef and veal were already expected to rise. Coffee, sugar, all of it was already climbing. Add a diesel shock on top, and yeah, the pressure gets worse fast. Retailers can absorb some of it for a while, but they've already been eating higher costs for months. Eventually, the cushion is gone, and prices catch up. For Maya, her $340 grocery bill is probably turning into $380, maybe $410. She starts batch cooking on Sundays. She cuts a meal kit subscription that was costing her $72 a month, which, should have happened a while ago. But anyway, progress is progress. For Ryan and Jess, this wave feels like a mystery. They'll be at checkout in May, staring at a total that's $55 higher than normal, and wondering if they're somehow buying more food. They're not. So if you're asking why your groceries are about to get more expensive, the answer is not because stores felt like it. It's because a military strike in the Gulf changed the cost of moving food around the world. That's the global supply chain, baby. Very efficient, right up until it isn't. Wave 3 is fertilizer, and this is the one most people completely miss. This is the invisible timer set for October. And this is the one that should make you sit up a little, because by the time you feel it, you'll have forgotten what started it. Natural gas is the main raw material for nitrogen fertilizer. Fossil fuels make up most of the cost of ammonia and urea, the stuff farmers use to grow basically everything. And a huge slice of the world's seaborne fertilizer trade moves through a Strait of Hormuz, which is now effectively shut down. Within the first week, major Gulf producers declared force majeure and halted exports. Urea prices jumped hard. Import hubs saw prices spike in a single week. In some parts of the Midwest, fertilizer sellers stopped even quoting prices because they couldn't promise delivery. Here's the timing problem. Spring planting is happening now. The decisions farmers make this month affect the harvest in the fall. So you won't feel this in April. You'll feel it in October, standing in the produce aisle, wondering why your apples, your lettuce, your tomatoes all cost way more than they should, and nobody is going to do a press conference about it. No one is going to say, "Good evening, your August barbecue is now melon-free." It just happens, quietly, and by the time it does, February 28th will feel like ancient history. For Maya, this is the wave she can't fully avoid, but at least she sees it coming. So she's already looking at a chest freezer. For Ryan and Jess, it lands out of nowhere. In October, they'll say groceries are insane. Their friends will say, seriously, same. And nobody will know why. Now, quick pause. Gas, groceries, fertilizer, military operations in the Persian Gulf. Does this actually hit everyone? Or is this one of those stories that sounds huge but only matters to economists and weirdos like me? Nope. The first 3 waves hit everybody. Rich, poor, middle class, doesn't matter. If you buy food, drive a car, or exist in the real world, you're exposed. But waves 4 and 5? That's where the gap between prepared people and unprepared people really opens up. And it opens fast. Wave 4, airfare. Your summer trip already cost more, and if you haven't noticed yet, you will. Jet fuel surged more than 60% after the strait closure. Fuel is about a quarter to a third of airline operating costs, which is massive. So when that input jumps, airlines have 2 choices. Eat the cost and wreck their margins, or pass it through to you. And airlines are not exactly known for generosity, are they? Analysts are projecting 15% to 30% higher summer fares for 2026, with June and July taking the biggest hit. Some budget carriers already raised fares sharply in a single week, which is hilarious in the least funny way possible. Here's the key difference between airfare and groceries. Airlines set prices months ahead, so those higher fares usually don't come back down quickly, even if oil does. The price you see today is probably better than the one you'll see next month. For Maya, that's why she called her mom and said, "Book the July flight now." Her mom did. $287 round trip, the same route yesterday, $341. For Ryan and Jess, they've been talking about a trip since December. They keep saying they'll look at flights later. Yeah, later is going to be ugly. Wave 5 is interest rates, and this is the biggest quiet hit of all. Because it doesn't show up as a separate line item. It shows up as a number that won't come down. At the start of 2026, markets were pricing in Fed rate cuts. People were expecting cheaper mortgages, cheaper car loans, maybe some relief on those nasty credit card APRs. A lot of plans were built around that. That expectation is basically dead now. The Fed held rates in March, and they're stuck in a brutal position. Higher oil pushes inflation up, but it also slows spending and can hurt jobs. So the Fed's two goals, stable prices and strong employment, are now pulling in opposite directions. It's like trying to fix a leak with two tools, and both tools also make the leak worse. Cute. Super fun. What does this mean for you? 30-year mortgage rates are sitting around 6.2% to 6.5%, up from February. Auto loans for good credit are around 7%. Credit card APRs are still in the 21% to 24% range. And Americans are carrying more than $1.20 trillion in credit card debt at those rates. Recession odds are now somewhere in the 30% to 50% range, depending on how long the shipping disruption lasts. For Maya, the mortgage rate she was hoping would come down just moved the wrong way again. Annoying, yes. But she's got savings earning 4.2%, no credit card debt, and she didn't panic sell her index funds. She can wait. For Ryan and Jess, that $3,800 credit card balance at 22% just got more expensive to carry. Their refinance window didn't slam shut, but it definitely got smaller. And this is where most people lose real money. Research tracking over 1 million investor accounts found that the average investor has underperformed the S&P 500 for 15 straight years. The market did fine. People just kept getting in their own way. That gap isn't because everyone picked bad stocks. It's because people sell during volatility and buy back after the rebound starts. Which, I know, sounds ridiculous out loud. But that's what the data says. We need to get back behind. And right now, doing that would be especially expensive because some of the best trading days in market history happened during bear markets. A bunch of them happen right next to the worst days. The rebound does not arrive politely. It comes in violent bursts. If you miss just the best trading days across a couple decades, your long-term return gets crushed. Like, crushed. So please, don't let your nervous system make a financial decision it's not qualified to make. Your body evolved for threats that could eat you. It has not been updated for index funds. Maya's $1,600 in index funds is down on paper right now. She checked once, closed the app, and went back to batch cooking on Sunday. Ryan opened his 401k statement, felt sick, and hasn't looked at it since. They could end up in the same place in 10 years, but only if Ryan doesn't do something dramatic in the next 90 days that locks in a loss he doesn't need to lock in. So, what do you actually do? First, build a bigger emergency fund and make it earn something. A huge chunk of Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency without debt. And when your car suddenly needs brake work, or your kid needs something, or your hours get cut right when everything else is more expensive, that money gap can turn into a credit card balance at 22% in a heartbeat. High-yield savings accounts are paying around 4.0% to 4.2% right now. which is way better than the national average. If the Fed stays frozen, those rates probably don't vanish tomorrow. So if your emergency fund is sitting in a near-zero savings account, fix that. Second, if you're carrying high-interest credit card debt, treat it like an emergency, because it is. Paying off a card at 22% is the same as earning a guaranteed 22% return, tax-free. You're not going to find that anywhere else. Every month you drag that balance through a higher price environment is just compounding pain. Attack it. Third, do not stop investing. Seriously, do not panic and move everything to cash because the world feels loud. The instinct to wait and see how this plays out is usually the most expensive move you can make. Keep your automatic contributions going. The shares you buy during volatility are often some of the best ones you'll ever buy. People who paused in 2020 at the bottom missed one of the fastest recoveries in market history. They waited in cash, watched the rebound without them, and then bought back in at higher prices. Don't do that to yourself. Set the contribution. Walk away. Let it run. Fourth, if you're planning summer travel, book now. Not this weekend. Now. Those 15% to 30% fare increases analysts are talking about haven't fully shown up yet. Maya's mom got the flight at $287. The same route is already higher. Fifth, audit your energy exposure. Long commute in a car that gets terrible mileage? That math just got worse. Small business moving physical goods? Renegotiate freight terms now, before the full diesel surcharge hits your invoices. And look, one of two things happens from here. Either the conflict cools off quickly and the damage is severe but contained, like the 1990 Gulf War, where markets recovered in months, or it drags on into summer. The strait stays disrupted. Fertilizer turns into a food price problem by fall. The Fed stays stuck, and what started as a gas story becomes something that takes years to unwind. We don't know which one it is yet. Nobody does. But we do know this. The households that come out of shocks in better shape are never the ones who earned the most. They're the ones who adjusted first. The ones who looked past the gas price sign and understood this was wave one, not the whole storm. Ryan and Jess are probably going to be okay. But they're also going to spend the rest of 2026 wondering why everything keeps getting more expensive, carrying that credit card balance longer than they wanted, and paying more for that summer trip than they should have. None of it will feel like a disaster. That's the annoying part. It'll just quietly, persistently cost them. Maya already adjusted. She didn't panic. She didn't do anything flashy. She just understood what was coming before it arrived. And honestly, that's the whole difference. Not income, not luck, not some secret finance club. Just paying attention a little earlier than everyone else, and doing 5 boring, unsexy things while the rest of the world was still saying, annoying but manageable. Most people are going to spend the rest of 2026 confused about why everything keeps getting more expensive. You just spent the last 20 minutes understanding exactly why. Now the only question is whether you do something with that information or just turn it into a very informed complaint at dinner.